Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's April 7th here. It's time to put the tank and the saddle we came up with, put it up here to see if it's going to work. Looks really good. It's standing up on its end, obviously. So the tank will sit down in here. Basically, they curved this up so it'll come up the sides. And they also curved it a second time to come out. These curves, what it does is it adds the strength of it this way, so that it won't want to bend the long way. Once we get it up there and get it in place, we're going to add a couple pieces, probably at least on both ends, maybe in the middle too, just to help add that side-to-side strength, just to help the pedestals, because the pedestals there aren't as wide as this thing, which is no problem. I think these are cut, I don't know for sure, but I think these are cut for basically like semi-tie-down straps. We'll hook those in, throw the strap over the top. There's no, like some of the tanks have ribs for the metal bands. This one does not, but we'll just throw those straps across for added security. We might also, the holes down there, we might also add, basically if this is sitting in there, just a metal tab with a hole through it, so we can add the bolts and we'll weld those. You know, they'll be on both ends here. So that also the tank would kind of hold the saddle up in itself too. But what I'm up to now is I'm going to grind off just this paint right here, so that's where it's going to get welded to. Just welding works better when there's no paint in the way. Get a better job done. So that's what'll hold it to it. We can't. The old one, it bolted down, and the reason it was able to bolt down is it had that plate, the bolts, and then it had like that gap where I was able to put that pallet forks, and then the actual saddle started there. We could not do a design like that with this tank being almost twice the size. The markers would not work. You couldn't fit it in there the way it was. So we had to keep it flat. So that's why we're gonna weld it fast to this pedestal. So yeah, that's what we're up to. We just got to make sure we'll set it up there, set the tank up in there, make sure we're not positioned too far back with our pedestals if we have to move them around where we need them, and then we will maybe, I don't know if we're gonna tack it, or we might have a different heavier duty welder we got to bring over here just to really make sure it's on there and get after it. Go nice and easy, because I think this is 3/16 steel, and they were just talking that if you really go after it all in one spot, that it'll want to bow down a little bit. So it's still cold out. It's only 24 degrees and it's April, and they were talking looking at our 8 inches for us on tomorrow night. Now they've backed it down to about 3 to 4 inches, and it keeps getting less and less. So hopefully it misses us all together. But yeah, we won't be planting anytime soon anyways. So I'm just going to start grinding on this. We have plenty of time to work on this. I'm off the first part of next week just for a couple days. I was in an instructor class all last week, so that's why you guys haven't heard from me in a while. But I'd like to get this thing out and get it hooked onto the mulch finisher and figure out what parts we need and get working on that. They're working on, I believe they're working on the air conditioning pump or something on this thing. I don't know. I've been out of the loop. So, but yeah, he's got all the hoses hooked up here and everything in the cab, and he actually even got the sprayer controls jammed in there too. I'm impressed. It looks really nice. So we have all of our controls in here, and we just got to wind up those cords a little better. But things are coming together. Once we get this tank on there, he's actually got all of our starter lines connected, all of our Yetter 2x2 side dress nitrogen lines connected. He's got it all ready to go. We need to be able to put water in both the tanks for the initial startup of this pump, and we need to actually have like dry ground that we can put the planter down and drive around on, because that's how this pump is driven. But you have to have this pump cranked wide open and get her rolling, and for the initial, you open the valves meters, however you want the settings, all the way open. And you got to run it through some things. So we don't have the tips on these because they're rather small since we're on both sides of the seed. That's the bigger openings, obviously, you'd have more product per acre. So we didn't want to do that. So obviously we don't want to plug those tips right off the bat. So we'll run it with no tips, blast things through, back it down to the settings we needed at, then we'll put our tips on there so we don't plug them up. And but this rig's just about ready for a field trial once we get this tank mounted up and plumbed, which that line is somewhere in here. It's right there, what this filter is hooked to. Once we get it plumbed in, this rig is probably just about ready for a field trial. And then we got work to do to the mulch finisher. And the mulch finisher will get a trial run too because we have to put some buffers in along a couple cricks. So let's hop to it. Nice. Looking good. Alright, here we go. I'm gonna set the tank up here. Looks good folded out. They don't look too bad on there, actually. The legs of the tank actually line up with our pedestals, and now we just got to get it welded on there. It's about where we want it. Love it when a plan comes together. Well, I didn't catch a whole lot there. You got to see a little bit of the welding, and at least you got to see the thing sitting up there. I'll show you a different time here. Boy, if I can get out of the yard here. I'll show you a different time next time I'm out next week. You'll see there's some cross bracing that we're doing on the corners, or they're doing. I'm not doing it, but I help trace them. They're cutting them. They're going to weld up the corners just to kind of hold that outer bit, because obviously the pedestals are supporting the majority of like the bottom side, but they don't support about a few inches out each way. So just to help tie it all together, they're putting some corner things on there, but all in all it turned out pretty well. We got to plumb it and then add our straps across the top and try to put a little paint on it so it doesn't rust so quick. So I'm just about to get on the road here, so that's just putting the tank on. So yeah, like I said, we're pretty pleased with it, and we'll check you guys later. Thanks for watching.